Bitcoin has once again reclaimed the $100,000 level following weeks of downwards price action. Here we'll look at whether this time we can expect $100,000 to hold and what levels we should be watching. Today we're going to be doing some technical analysis to see if we can maybe anticipate Bitcoin to finally hold this $100,000 level. So what we can see here is just on the short-term holder realized price chart, we can see that the average accumulation price or cost basis of new market participants, which has historically acted as support during bull markets and resistance during bear markets, but we're definitely in a bull market still. It's currently at around 87, but closing on an $88,000. Just so we can see, if we look at previous cycles, there's been multiple instances throughout all of Bitcoin's history where during these big, strong uptrends, Bitcoin comes back, retests this level as support before bouncing higher. So if we just zoom back in, if we were to dip towards, let's just say $90,000 as this is constantly moving to the upside, that wouldn't be a terrible thing to happen. Obviously, it'd feel pretty bad. But if $100,000 doesn't hold, which we'll cover shortly whether we think that will hold, $90,000 looks like a very strong point of support. What we can also see is looking at the funding rates, especially since Bitcoin made that all-time high, we did see pretty high positive funding rates, which, as this is usually more of a counter trade indicator, that's usually not the most bullish indication. What we could see is they were incredibly high, reaching, well, when we were at the previous all-time high levels, but since then they actually briefly turned negative following just a 15, 20, not even 20% retracement to around $92,000, and since then we have popped again to above $100,000. And these are looking incredibly healthy now, these funding rates, both the USD denominated and coin funding rates. It's pretty much the standard 0.01% level, which, as we said, from back here is incredibly positive. And we don't need these funding rates to be negative or 0% during a bull cycle. These typically stay at above 0% and slightly positive because most people tend to want to long an asset that's gone from a fraction of a penny to over $100,000. But ultimately, the derivatives market are looking in a lot healthier position. So if we go over to TradingView here and just look at the charts, what we can see is obviously Bitcoin has rallied from this low we set. Let me just find the drawing tool. Here around $92,000 to now above $100,000. But really what we're wanting to see is Bitcoin hold this $100,000 level, which, looking at a few different points, I think we have a better chance of holding this level now compared to previous attempts. So what we can see here is obviously Bitcoin has made this a very key level, obviously psychological, big round number, and just Bitcoin entering six-figure territory. So we can see it's acted as resistance, then support, then resistance. So hopefully now Bitcoin, as we're having a slight retracement, can come back, retest this 10 into support before moving higher. But like we could see on the short-term holder realized price, there are a few levels of support and resistance above and beneath current price action. If we just zoom out here, what we can see is around this region here, which would be support. If I just turn that green like this so it's easy to see, this would be a strong level of support for the Bitcoin price action, aligning with that short-term holder realized price and acting as support as Bitcoin has come down on multiple occasions between this kind of $88,000 to $92,000 region. I think that would definitely hold if Bitcoin is to have a slightly deeper retracement. And then slightly above that, what we can see is Bitcoin also will likely have a little bit of support at around this region here, which is currently at around $95,000, $96,000. What we can see is usually when Bitcoin or any asset spends an extended period of time within one price action region, one that's lots of volume taking place, what we can see is this acts as a key level of interest. So Bitcoin acted as support here before it came down, and resistance, resistance again, support before we rallied higher. And because we've seen such a huge amount of volume in this area, there'll be a lot of people with break-even points at this point, maybe look to reaccumulate at their average entry price, etc. So I think beneath current price action, we definitely have a lot of support there. What we can also do is if we add on the 200 daily moving average, this is also closing in on this $100,000 level, which will give some confluence there as well as the golden ratio multiplier, which again, this 350 day is trending to the upside as well. And just looking from a technical perspective, what we can see, if I just remove a couple drawings there, is what we like to see in the price action is higher highs and higher lows. So what we saw in this uptrend previously is, if I just change the drawing color so it's a bit easier to see, change it to yellow, what we can see is Bitcoin made a high, a higher low, a higher high, a higher low, a higher high. And then when we came on this downtrend, what we could see is a lower low, a lower high, a lower low. So that typically is more bearish for price action. But what we've now seen is a bit of a reversal in the trend. We've seen a higher high than previously. So if we can now make a higher low here, then things look incredibly bullish for BTC to rally potentially higher. So if we do rally higher, what price levels can we look at? Well, just above current price action, pretty much where he started this retracement, has been an interesting point for BTC over the past few weeks. I'll just color this red so it's a bit easier to see as well. So I think just above us at around $102,000 to $103,000 is going to be a pretty noticeable point of resistance, especially as that looks like it's matched the local high we've just seen in price action. But above that, there's not a substantial amount. There's probably going to be some resistance at around here. Again, probably around $104,000 because as Bitcoin rallied up to its new all-time high at that time, when we came up here, this was the point where Bitcoin was rejected, dropped quite dramatically. And then as we came up again, flipped this level, turned it into support a couple of times before we came back down as well. So then above that $102,000, $103,000, $104,000 level, there's not really a lot we need to be looking out for until we kind of reach these 107, 108 current all-time high levels. So it'll be really interesting to see what Bitcoin does over the coming days and weeks. But really, I think we just need to watch these ranges here from kind of $103,000, $104,000 down to kind of this 95, 96 if 100K doesn't hold. Bitcoin typically has these periods where it's just ranging and not doing a whole lot. And especially after we've rallied quite substantially, it might make sense to have a little bit of a cool off, especially if we look at something like the Bitcoin Crosby ratio. Right now I'm on the 4-hour chart, so it gives a little bit more of a reactive data point compared to looking at the daily time frame or something like that. What we can see when adding this on the 4-hour chart, that Bitcoin did reach this lower region here, this buy level, as it did previously at this point here, but it has recently just entered this upper, potentially overbought territory as Bitcoin has hit this resistance region here, which when we see confluence such as this, when we see potentially overbought conditions reaching resistance points, that usually is indicative of an upcoming retracement. So potentially we do see Bitcoin range between these levels, at least up until the inauguration. I think there's going to be some volatility following that on January 21st, I believe. So it wouldn't surprise me to have a boring couple of weeks. But if I just remove all of these drawings, what we can say is once we surpass that current all-time high that we have, it's pretty difficult to maybe anticipate where Bitcoin can go to. I think big round numbers, $110,000, $120,000, are always going to play a part just because psychologically that's a key level that a lot of investors will be watching. But a great tool that I like to use is this Fibonacci extension tool. So what we can do is just look to the previous cycle high and cycle lows, then grab the low here up to the high here. Now, if you want to recreate this, I'll just quickly show the settings that I have. You can pause it and recreate this on your own charts. But if I just go back to the current price section, what we can see is this has marked out the interesting price action we've seen recently as Bitcoin has been hovering around this current Fibonacci extension. But then beyond that, we see $122,000 as the next key level for BTC. And if we were to move even substantially higher than that, then we're probably looking towards this $145,000 level. And before you dismiss these Fibonacci extensions, which are literally just multiples of numbers, we'll look at the previous cycle to show that these actually do have some influence on the Bitcoin price action. What we can do is go to our 2017 into 2018 cycle, do the exact same thing. So if I just grab the low here and then the high up here, if I can grab it, there we go. And then zoom out to see the 2020 into 2021 cycle. What we can see is Bitcoin, once it rallied past its previous all-time high, came up to this 1.382 Fibonacci, retraced exactly to this 1236, and then every Fibonacci point beyond that, again, acted as a key level for BTC going forward. And that's pretty much where we are at now. It's a bit crowded, the chart here. But this 1.382 level is that $122,000. So potentially we see Bitcoin rally up to this, maybe have a retracement to $100,000, give us that 20% retracement and just a nice cool off. And then beyond that, we can climb higher to potentially $145,000 or even $173,000. Also, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to ensure you're receiving all of our content as soon as it's released. And make sure to check out all the resources we've discussed today, as well as the many more that are all available on BitcoinMagazinePro.com, your number one source for Bitcoin analysis. So just to summarize, Bitcoin has reclaimed the key $100,000 level and could now have the strength to test our current all-time high and potentially break even higher. But prior to that, I would like to see $100,000 retested as support to really solidify that point, get some buying pressure to make a nice foundational point for Bitcoin to really have the fuel to climb higher. But what we can say is the market does look sufficiently cooled off following our rally to new all-time highs by not just the derivatives rate, but a number of on-chain metrics, just technical points, looking at the Crosby ratio, etc. We were quite overbought as we rallied to $108,000. And now we've had just a cool-off period. A cool-off doesn't necessarily mean we have to retrace 20, 30%. It just needs to allow price to kind of sit and settle in a certain area to allow new investor capital to come in. What we can see is we do look like we have cooled off and the market is in a considerably healthier position. And just from a technical point, looking at the higher highs and higher lows, things are looking quite bullish for BTC. So like I said, hopefully we can flip that $100,000 into support. But if we don't, then I think beneath current price action, between kind of $88,000 to $92,000, we have a lot of confluence for support down there. Not only the short-term hold at realized price or the average accumulation cost basis of new market participants, but just from the technical points we could see on the chart as well. I think that would be a major support if Bitcoin is unfortunately to break low. But like we said, ultimately our outlook is currently bullish and looking for BTC to, over the next few weeks and months, break considerably higher, potentially to even those Fibonacci extension points at $120,000 or more. If you like this video, then please visit bitcoinmagazinepro.com, where our analytics help you to cut through the noise to make informed, data-driven decisions about Bitcoin. With over 150 live charts, personalized indicator alerts, in-depth crypto industry reports, API access, and more, all for a fraction of the standard industry price, including a lot of the indicators we use today, the TradingView indicators, etc. They're really handy to have, especially along with that, the alerts you get up here, which will alert you when any of the indicators crosses a certain threshold or produces something that's overly bullish or bearish. It's really easy and simple to just react to that as soon as it's happening. As well as that, let me know your thoughts on the current technical perspective of BTC. Are you bullish and anticipate Bitcoin to move considerably higher? Do you think we maybe have a little bit of a cool off and chop consolidation between a range of, say, $103,000 to $95,000? Or are you maybe bearish and think we retest 90K or go even lower? As I said, let me know in the comments below and on social media. I look forward to reading and replying to them. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.